Hey, welcome everybody. It's Ted Prodomrou, and it's Tuesdays with Ted, Thursday edition, take two. Elaine and I had a little technical difficulty on Tuesday, but here we are. We're back.
We were very cool, and with Ted's tech support, we made it, but we didn't want to make people wait too long. So
Yeah,
here we are again,
tech stuff happens, right?
totally. And so we're better for it. And so now we have Thursdays with Ted, which you may not have thought about before.
Special edition.
There you go.
So we are both speakers with the Sales and Marketing Management magazine. That's how we met each other.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about influence. And like the first thing people say when you talk about influences, is that manipulating people to make them buy from you?
Okay. Well, so that gets to the definition of influence. And a lot of people uh, say that they're a little afraid to even like engage in the concept because they feel it's manipulative. And so I'm going to deal with that right now. And then I'll get to a definition that we use for the kind of official definition or the working definition of the word influence.
Mm-hmm.
So, number one, influence does not mean having a lot of followers on Instagram because, that's very fickle. These are not people that and, they can vanish overnight with the next iteration or the next shiny object.
Right.
So, and we need to be aware of all the influencing efforts towards us, many of which are manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that we teach, which we'll mention later on. But the reason we're talking about this is that I'm the author of a book called The 7 Secrets of Influence, and we'll talk about all the goodies about that. But the what we teach is awareness and knowledge. For it's very important to understand when you are at the receiving end of somebody else's influencing attempt, how they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So most of us aren't aware of why or how we said yes to either, somebody selling us a car, a home, changing a job, uh, getting into a relationship, out of a relationship. And yet it's very, very important these days, for example, in the US, we're bombarded with campaign messages, whatever state you live in.
Yeah.
Politicians are trying to persuade you, influence you to get your vote. And you may not realize that millions of dollars of research goes into what is going to push your buttons,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we need to be aware of those things. And, similarly, we're bombarded with messages that, get us to call your doctor. What a joke.
Right. Tell your
um,
doctor you need this medication.
right. Just try calling your doctor, right? I challenge you. So, um, but we're being bombarded with messages that want us to buy remedies for diseases we didn't even know we had.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of step one, is to understand how we're being influenced. And then we need to be aware of how we do it. Because, most of us, people who belong to LinkedIn and other professional networking platforms, you're probably already a good influencer,
Yeah.
or you wouldn't be where you are. But, most of us have no conscious awareness of all the different streams that goes into your being a good influencer. And that's very important because even if you come out of a meeting and you did very, very well, let's say you scored, right? You got a yes.
Yeah.
Now, you may have thought that this was because you had a trusting relationship, or it was just a lucky day, or whatever. But unless you know exactly what you did and how you do it, you may not be able to replicate that good result.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me get to the manipulation issue that you just mentioned. So I like to look at this on a couple of dimensions. Influence is a set of behaviors and skills. It's a power. So, like electricity or nuclear, for example,
Yeah.
it's an inherent power, and then how you use it is kind of up to your own ethical or moral compass. So if I'm a powerful influencer and I know all these skills, which I do, I can
Mhm.
influence you or attempt to influence you for a self serving result on my end, or something that's going to benefit you. I
Mhm.
noticed you had a post today about benefits. So,
Right.
the two questions I like to ask about whether this is positive or negative influence is intent and effect. Okay, so intent is, are my intentions honorable? Right? Is it my intention to teach you something, to offer you a benefit, to make your life better in some way with what it is that I'm offering you? A safer car, a more eco friendly home,
Mm.
a better job. Okay, so am I offering you some things that will accrue benefits to you? So that's the intent.
Yeah.
And then the effect is, how do you feel over there as a result of my influencing attempt? Do you feel enriched? It's kind of like when we do that comment I mentioned to you about, doing that seminar, and a person saying it was a good investment of my time.
Right.
So, when you do a speech, Ted, or a webinar, you want people to feel that they got a bang for their buck, in this case, free,
Mhm.
but time is worth money as well. And if somebody invests an hour in listening to you, hopefully they're getting more than an infomercial for
Right.
whatever service you're selling, right?
Mhm.
So that's the effect part. And what the effect is, do you feel enriched or enlightened or enhanced as a result of my attempt to influence it? And it isn't covert. That's the other thing I should say,
Mhm.
is that positive influence is very transparent. So I'm telling you what it is I want to end up with as a result of our time together.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to work like hell to have you see that this will benefit you.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's how I deal with what influence is not.
Yeah.
Now, what influence is, or the way that I would you like to hear that?
Yeah, I'm just thinking I've been to conferences where speakers will be presenting and they use NLP, like neuro linguistic programming, and they manipulate the audience. One guy got 80% of the audience to buy his product, and he was just
Using NLP.
NLP and intimidating people, and he was doing it
Wow.
only to make sales. And I think there's like a 60% refund rate because the program he was selling was horrible, but he
So
manipulated everybody and
right.
everybody
So
ran
it's
to
like
the back of
it's
the
a
room.
exactly. It's a good first yes, but then and also your reputation suffers.
Right.
But it's kind of like, a forced error. What do you call it, when because you brought it on yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say that I at one time I did have a certification in NLP, but and in fact, I've used some of the larger principles of NLP to inform my own theory. And I'll get to that in just a minute,
Mhm.
because I think that NLP, as you're telling the story, has kind of a bit of a bad rap. And really, these guys started out as therapists.
Yeah.
that not crooks and con men and swindlers. It's just that it is very powerful and other people have distorted it, which often happens,
Yeah.
right? So the way that I would define influence, the working definition that I use with students and clients, is that it's pretty simple. Influence is the power or capacity. As I said earlier, it's like energy or electricity. It's a capacity, it's a power to affect change in the attitudes, values, and behaviors of other people, right? So the attitudes and values, I may change them on your part, but that's not measurable,
Yeah.
right? It's only in the behavior that I can tell whether it worked. Like, did you buy or not buy?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's pretty simple. And interestingly, in the dictionary, an archaic definition of influence says that influence is the flowing of an ethereal fluid from the stars, said to have magical powers over men.
Hmm.
And it's pretty interesting because, in a way, like magic, influence, when it's done skillfully, may seem a bit like magic. It's just that there's a lot of planning and practice that goes into it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so basically, my philosophy, the idea of what I teach is for people, and that's why we call this the extra edge, because it's kind of like giving people extra radar, right? And
Yeah.
the prism, I mean, the way it works is that at the beginning, people take a questionnaire, which is a psychometric questionnaire, and you learn what your influence style is over 6 different styles.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us are stronger in one or more, but we may not know it. So this is the awareness part.
Right.
And it simply gives people a way to be more strategic. And the principle is understand your customer, right? And then flex into the style that he or she prefers to be influenced in.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, that comes from NLP.
Okay.
It's just you get what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
it's quite a bit more refined.
So I have a style as being an influencer to influence others. And then on the receiving end, there's ways people are influenced.
Right. So one quick example, which is an extreme, okay? So we have 6 styles, and one of them is called telling, which is pretty self-explanatory. I came up with these rhyming 6 styles, and
Mm-hmm.
then I think I sent you the little mini book.
Yeah.
And so in there's a link to Jot form where you take the questions, and then you have these 6 columns. So let's say one style is telling / analyst. And so that's somebody who's very data oriented, very facts and
Right.
figures, like lawyerly in a way. They like evidence.
Right.
Show me.
Show me the
Right?
proof.
Show me the proof. And there's another style which I call gelling, and that's also called idealist. And now that's somebody who speaks in metaphors
Mm-hmm.
and paints word pictures. Uh, I have a dream,
Yeah.
right? So it is not based on facts and figures, or like we'll have a person on the moon in 10 years. There was no how, but it was a kind of a future vision.
Right.
Okay. So if I know, now you can't stereotype people by their profession. So I want to qualify that. Like, if just because you're a CPA doesn't mean that you're facts and figures oriented. You might be,
Mm-hmm.
but every person is a research sample of one, right?
Interesting.
So that's the way you need to approach it, because
Okay.
at your peril, you use
So don't go by
stereotypes.
job titles.
Not at all. No,
Maybe a lot of CPAs are that way, but
but maybe not. And
right.
one of my books has a whole research appendix where we researched people's results by company, like American Express, IBM, a couple of others, by gender, by title, by age. So it what came out was it's not what you think it is.
So can you, like, you meet someone new and you, through conversation, can you kind of figure out what kind of type they are?
Yes, you form a hypothesis. Let's put it that way,
Okay.
right? I don't want to call you a type, because the way that your test comes out is just a snapshot of how you what your default is,
Mm-hmm.
and you may not even be aware of it,
Right.
right? And so you may wonder why you're scoring like 1/6 of the time
Yeah.
with people, and that's because you're using your default, and yet there are 5 other strategies
Mm-hmm.
you could be using if only you knew they existed.
Right.
So that's kind of why this is a big aha for people. And so, yes, to answer, so yes, when you meet someone, that's kind of what makes it fun. It's, you have to do, as I say, each person is a research population of one.
Mm-hmm. And we're a little
And
bit of all six, probably, but you do lean towards
you
one.
do lean, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult these days because we're not meeting people in person.
Yeah.
And right. And sometimes we're not even getting this visual.
Yeah.
So you can study somebody's affect, but it's you need certain exposure to a person. And then there's a couple of tricks and tips. For example, like I'm not going to say, "Nice to meet you. Here's my questionnaire," so I can figure out how to sell you.
Yeah. Here, fill this out so I can
Right?
figure out.
Please fill this out and call me back. No, but like one thing that I've often told my students is it's amazing how much you can learn about a person by having sharing a meal with them. Watch how they handle a menu. Now, you need to know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, are they adventurous? Are they trying like some new concoction that's the special of the day?
Right.
Do they kind of wait to be asked last, waiting to see what everybody else orders? Right? Is it a place they know that they've invited you to, maybe, and they just tell the wait person, I'll have my usual,
Right.
right? So there are just a lot of clues.
Yeah. So you just kind of observe, and because
Just observe,
once you
as
know
the
the
famous
six, you can kind of
philosopher,
say, okay, these people keep leaning here.
there you go.
But when
That
you're talking
famous,
about a meal, but if you're trying to sell them consulting services, they may be different.
no,
No? Okay. So if you're in the same thing in the restaurant, they'll have that same
I
pattern.
mean, people are pretty consistent,
Okay.
right? Now, sometimes people ask me about what about a group? So that's a bit tricky, and I won't go into it now in the interest of time, but there is an article on my blog, which is just easyinfluence.com. That's my website, and go to the blog section. And it's kind of called Read the Room.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think the article is called The Proposal.
Okay.
Okay.
The proposal.
The Proposal. And it's about how I was invited via an RFP to pitch my services, to a committee. And I was like one of 7 vendors invited. And what do? Right? They give you 30 minutes, and you have like 7 people sitting there. All right, show us what you got.
Yeah.
Right? and it can be pretty intimidating. And what I say in the article, which as I say, I'll do it very briefly here, is that I used 5 or so of my allotted minutes to warm up the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked each person something. Mostly, what are your criteria for choosing a vendor today?
Hmm.
Because although I had an a request for proposal, I didn't know that these 7 people were the ones who wrote that.
Oh,
Because you never know that,
right.
right? That was a committee like 4 months ago. And so you don't know if those people wrote this thing today that are the deciders in this room.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a
yeah.
great question to ask them.
And then also when you're warming up the room, you can see who defers to whom.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So it's not hard. It's very simple things to do. And you just need to observe and ask the question and observe. Then you kind of can put people, they start leaning towards one of the 7,
One of the 6.
one of the 6.
Now, so you may ask, please ask, if there are 6 styles, why is it called 7
Right.
secrets?
And
So the 7th secret is it's more of what I call a formula. And the formula is influence equals attentiveness. That's listening and observation
mm-hmm.
of the other person, plus flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have learned, sometimes I know the profile because they're right there in my class,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes you don't, but you learn what you can by observing and listening. And then whatever my default is, it doesn't really matter because it may not work on that particular person. So I need to have learned those other skills. And that's what the course is about.
Okay.
So it's just helping people create flexibility so they have more options instead of, packing up and quitting and
Mm-hmm.
say, like, this was a bomb. There are other ways that you can attempt, you can try.
So how much does intuition play into this?
Well, I think quite a lot, and I think so. I think that one of the valuable things about NLP I will mention is that they do talk about creating rapport when it isn't natural,
Mm-hmm.
and it's based on that same idea that once you've created rapport with someone, you kind of instinctually know kind of what they're thinking, but you have to take the trouble and the time. And this is one of the things about LinkedIn that, somebody sends me an in-mail and they tell me their whole story and what they offer. You've seen that. And
Yeah.
sometimes I tell them if I want to be kind of nice, I'll take the trouble to say, look, it looks like you have something very solid here, but you're never going to sell it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I wouldn't be interested in exploring further because your approach is too salesy.
That's the thing. Yeah. People give their whole life story and the whole life story of the product they're selling. And it's
And they
like, we
don't
don't
even
even know
know
each other's
whether I
names
need
yet.
it, want it. If I don't want it, maybe I could give them a nice referral, but not on the first date.
Yeah. And then if you don't respond, they go, hey, pinging you back. So this goes to the top of your inbox. Like if I was interested, I'd call you or respond.
Exactly. So anything else I don't know how the time is, it 3 to 3:30?
Oh, whatever. As long as
Okay.
I
Well,
could,
a
I could ask
couple
you
of things.
questions all day.
Oh, me too. So I've given you some links. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that I've been teaching this program. It's called The Secrets of Influence. It's a licensed program So I license individual consultants
Mm-hmm.
to market and teach the program, and we give them a lot of marketing tools. And then we also license companies.
Okay.
So we train their trainers to teach it. I mean, that's just some process thing. And since COVID, I kind of hadn't, it was kind of like in my mind a bit, but I have to say that COVID sped this up. I worked with a very talented team who are technical educational designers
Mm-hmm.
specializing in adult e-learning. And so together we created an online version of the live class.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 12 modules, it's in Moodle, and it's a completely self paced, or for companies, it can be customized or hybrid. Like hybrid is blended learning where you do the program yourself for,
Yeah.
let's say, the first 3 or 4 modules, and then we have a shared meeting,
Mm-hmm.
like a forum, a Q&A with all the current students.
So this
So
is
I
good
just
for the management team and the employees, so they can communicate
exactly.
back and
So
forth.
I did want to mention that. But I also wanted to give a little plug about what you're doing, because people invited here today might know Ted, but I think one of the reasons that we connected to do this is that Ted has a very special niche on LinkedIn, because there are a lot of people who are LinkedIn experts who teach you, the basics of creating a good profile, using the maximum number of characters,
Right.
using the banner for the maximum punch for your message visually, blah, blah, and all that creation. But what Ted goes a little bit more special and more advanced. Can I say that?
That's yeah.
So if you're already very serious about LinkedIn, I mean, if you post regularly, if you engage with other posters very regularly, if you're always inviting, new people, then you are what I would call a customer for TED. If you're paying for a premium membership, right, or even
Yeah.
or a sales navigator, then you're serious. And so what Ted will do with his consultation is teach you how to be a master, LinkedIn presence. Is
Thank
that
you
what?
for that. I appreciate that.
I mean, I hope I'm saying it right.
You are, because we have an unfair advantage because we knew how to do business before the internet. Where we actually got in front of people and talked to people,
Exactly.
and that's what it's all about, building
That's
those
what it's all about.
relationships through real conversations, not spammy messages back and forth.
Right. And like not hundreds of, maybe it'll land somewhere.
Right.
And then I guess the bridge, or the reason that we're doing this together, is what we were saying, is that Ted will bring you to the place where your profile is so excellent and you have enough followers that people take you seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and you have enough posts that people want to go there. It's interesting. Your
Right.
content is reasonable and good. But then and then he will teach you how to like sift out people that you want to have a conversation with
Yeah.
off the platform, right? Or as you were saying, like start video chat right there, or else invite them to a Zoom meeting, or imagine even an old fashioned phone call, right? And
Yeah.
so I think where I come in, and correct me if I'm wrong, is now that you've got the beginnings, the seed of a relationship, I'm going to teach you how to use that valuable time that you've just gotten
Mm-hmm.
to learn the person, understand your customer. I mean, it's basic selling 101,
Right.
right? And then I think you have a post today about benefits,
Features and benefits.
features and benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't wait to read your book because this is something I can take my whole consulting practice to a whole new level
there you go.
and then bring you as a guest expert to help train those people at that next stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and you can read the little book. You know, I sent you the mini book when we first started this conversation.
Yeah.
And that's kind of being kind of mindful and respectful about people's limited attention span these days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called Influence, the 7 Big Secrets in 7 Little Minutes.
Which is exactly what people want.
That's what they want, even less. Can you make
Yeah.
it less? You know.
And I had to really influence you to become a guest on this show.
Well, that's true.
It was really hard.
Right. It wasn't hard.
Yeah. No,
It
it's great
wasn't
because we
hard.
had something in common. We both spoke at the same group. And now that we had something in common, and now I see us working together a lot in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, folks, this is how it works. I mean, this is very meta, but what you're seeing is how these strategic partnerships work.
Yeah.
You know, you meet somebody, you think you speak to the same audience, you have not similar, complementary products and services to offer. That's the
Right.
key.
Yeah.
So we're not competing with each other. We're only both giving benefits that will help customers.
Complements perfectly because what's working, social media is not working like it used to. Now it goes back to what we learned. It's relationships.
Exactly.
So,
And exactly. And, you know, like everything old is back, like this thing about stories
yeah.
is coming back. Actually, in San Rafael, there was a group that I belonged to. I think it was San Rafael. And it was called SHHHH, Seventh Sunday Storytelling. And it was a storytelling group. And some of them were even professional storytellers, you know, who were booked by a theater.
Interesting.
And suddenly now, like storytelling is like a big thing. People are running workshops on how to teach you how to tell a story. I
Right.
don't know if that's possible. I'll tell you the truth. Because I don't know. You're either a story, I guess you could learn. I don't
You
know.
can learn, but all this stuff that keeps recycling through the internet, it's stuff it's been around forever.
Well, you have to be around for a while. Like I have a lot of stories because I've just, you know, lived to tell the tale. Good ones and bad ones, believe me.
Right.
You know, I have a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks in New York City.
Mm-hmm. That'll do it.
Yeah.
So what's your website again? This has been great. And people need to go to your website and get on your
Thank you.
email list.
So my website is easyinfluence.com, you know, www.http. I think I gave you the link.
It's
And
in the other
maybe,
event, unfortunately.
pardon?
I put it in the other event.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you can go there and put it there, but just, you know, if people are still with us or watching the replay, it's basically www.easyinfluence.com. And there you can find the blog. Actually, there are a lot of things you can find there. So, one link I gave you, but it's easily found, is if you go to the site and go to services, you'll find, there we go. No, easy,
Easy.
easy. Yeah,
Okay.
good. Glad we qualified that.
There we go.
Easyinfluence.com.
The keyboard decided to take a break.
Perfect, perfect.
Excellent.
So what springs from that is pretty much everything you ever wanted to know about me and my programs. And I work with a team. And if you go to services or to products and scroll down, you can see all about the Influence program. And then further down, you can scroll to Secrets of Influence e-learning.
Okay.
And I think the title of that page is called Become an Influence Winner.
This is great stuff. I really like this stuff.
Thank you. So that's how to find out. And then also, if people just have questions after this, I'm certainly happy to have you contact me.
Find you on LinkedIn and say you
Find me on
saw me on the
LinkedIn,
show.
and or you can find my contact info. So I won't recite it now, but all my contact info is there.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time. This has been great. Like I said, we could talk forever.
I know, and maybe we will again.
Yes,
So, Ted,
definitely.
thank you so much for the invitation. Thanks for your confidence. And thank you for entering into this, what I hope will be a creative collaboration
I think
going
so.
forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.